Good morning and welcome back to Diving Deep into Eberron here on Gaming with ADHD. I am Brian and I am joined today by my lovely co-host who I still can't get that sign right.
Yeah, you gotta go that way.
Yeah.
I gotta go that way.
Which is funny because you do all of that pointing and it's completely wrong. You're like, do this. And I'm like, I tried, but I have to do the opposite.
Yes, you gotta go that way.
Anyways,
you can't go that way. You gotta go that way.
Exactly. So, folks, thank you so much for joining us. We are not technically live this week, but we are going to set this as a premiere. So, if you arrived at starting time, you should see either Seraphis or myself, or hopefully both, actually in chat so we can actually interact with you, answer your questions. We'll make sure to have the books and be able to look stuff up if you've got any specific questions. And of course, obviously, if you are watching this later, don't hesitate to throw something down in the comments. We'd love to hear from you about what you think of how we're doing the presentation, Eberron in general, etc. Absolutely would love to get your feedback. In addition, don't forget to like and subscribe. It absolutely helps the algorithm, but also we are doing this every Wednesday, and we'd love for you to come back and join us during the live episodes where you can, join everybody else in chat and either make fun of us or, just provide your own personal insights. We'd absolutely love to hear from you. So with that all out of the way, Seraphis, how you doing today, buddy?
Oh, one of those days. Although, technically speaking, today's one of those days, but when this goes up, it might not be one of those days. We'll see. It could be a completely different day, really. Either way, it's going to be a day.
Is it going to end in Y, though?
Well, they usually do. But hey, that's what we already ask ourselves. Why?
Exactly. So, anyways. All right. So, folks, if this is your first time here, this is episode 7. Today, we're actually going to be trying to get through. Well, actually, no, we're not trying. We'll be able to get through 2 chapters. We're going to cover magic and the adventuring equipment. Now, just to kind of warn you folks, when we do get to the actual list of spells, it's going to be really truncated. There is going to be a lot of information, but it's going to be more for you to research on your own time. Mostly because reading lists of spells is really boring, and we want to spare you. So keep that in mind when we get there. But other than that, we're going to get
want maths from us. Just go look at the previous episode, okay?
If they want what from us?
Maths.
Yeah, no, that's not going to end well for anyone. So anyhow, all right, let me go ahead and flip my cameras around. And since you started off last time, how about I go ahead and kick it off for us today? All right. Magic infuses the world of Eberron. It rages high above in the ring of Sybaris that encircles the world. It binds things dark and foreboding in the deepest caverns of the underworld of Kyber. It seeps from the land itself, a source of energy, as well as a means for bending the laws of reality. This chapter discusses the role of magic in Eberron, presents new rules for magical effects such as fiendish possession and celestial channeling, describes the planar cosmology of Eberron, and includes spell lists and new spells for spell-casting characters. Now, magic and reliance upon magic shapes and defines the societies of Eberron. For thousands of years, wizards, sorcerers, clerics, artificers, adepts, and mage-rites have brought their magical talents to bear to solve the problems life poses. Let's see. These solutions have helped humanoid society develop and thrive on every continent, particularly on Corvair. The result is a society suffused with magic. Sky coaches fly among the soaring towers of Sharn. Blacksmiths chant spells over forges to improve the way they work. Airships ferry passengers from Zalargo to Karnath. Weavers draw threads of shadow into their fabrics. Streets are illuminated with continual flame spells, and arcane marks emblazon letters of credit and other important documents. Magic is in common use, and low-level spells are easily accessible, although high-level magic is rare and wondrous. All right. Spellcasters. Two broad categories of spellcasters work across Eberron: professional spellcasters and elite spellcasters. Each has a widely different impact on society. Professional spellcasters include adepts, mage knights, and others who actually earn a relatively mundane living by casting spells. These working class casters keep the wheels of industry turning, sometimes literally. Broadly, this category also includes most dragon-marked individuals. They put their inborn magical ability to economic use for their house or family. In fact, the dragon-marked houses of Corvair dominate the economic life of the continent through their near absolute control over professional spellcasting. Many of the unmarked members of the houses are mage knights and adepts, and professional spellcasters who are not members of the families usually work for the guilds that the dragon-marked houses control. Elite spellcasters include wizards, artificers, sorcerers, clerics, druids, bards, and members of other spellcasting PC classes. Elite spellcasters might sell their services, but they rarely rely on such activity as their sole occupation and source of income. Few people can afford to pay for a high-level spell, and the market for elite spellcasters is too small to support many of them through their spellcasting alone. Most elite spellcasters have other professions. They are sages, priests, advisors, or adventurers. Most citizens of a Corvarian city can't afford to have even a low-level spell cast on their behalf. The 125 gold piece price for Remove Disease, for example, puts that spell out of reach of most citizens, even those with the House Jurasco discount, and practically guarantees that disease will never be eradicated from any of Corvair's nations. On the other hand, most people can't afford to hop on a sky coach to travel from one end of Sharn to the other, getting a first-hand experience of the incredible magic that keeps the City of Towers running. Even the poorest resident of a great city still benefits from the ever-bright lanterns found along major thoroughfares. As with any other services, some magical effects are easily affordable and widely available, and others are within the reach of only the wealthiest people. This section discusses, in general terms, the kinds of magical services that are available and their impact on society. Specific prices for these services are given in Chapter 6, Adventuring Equipment. So, this is actually something that stuck out to me when I was reading this. You know, the 125 gold piece price for Remove Disease.
Yeah.
So, you can't go to a cleric. The hospitals of House Jurasco, like, if they're using magic, those are out of reach. So, like, they make this big deal. Oh, here's all of this stuff. Oh, by the way, you can't afford any of it.
So, yeah, it's a bit of a... trying to think how to go about explaining this one, because this one always came off a little bit odd to me, even though, see, on one hand, it's a lot easier to keep the sky coaches running in Sharn because they're all being powered off of the manifest zone, right?
Sure.
Whereas you know, Remove Disease, you've got to actually empower that spell either into a scroll or into a magical potion, or you've got to be able to cast it in order to provide it, right? And it's like a third or fourth level spell, so it is actually above your general like 0 and 4th level spells, which are the more common ones.
Right. And I think remove disease, okay, this maybe isn't the best example, but the way that it's written, it just seems like, okay, yeah, there's common stuff, like, like with the sky coach.
Hmm.
Once you bind the elemental, well, then for all intents and purposes, just give it a little bit of magic juice and you're already done. You just keep driving around.
Hmm.
But, but then it just seems like the fact that they used remove disease to me also just kind of implies that, like other magical healing isn't really going to be that affordable. So, maybe I'm just missing something. Maybe it's already not affordable in other games of other settings of D&D.
Oh,
But
I mean, like, you've got diseases and stuff that run rampant in, Forgotten Realms and Greyhawk, especially. Like, Greyhawk's meant to be the, standard, really, and that setting frequently, like outside of the city of Greyhawk, you've got disease that runs rampant through
well,
towns,
it's
killing them
supposed
off.
to be a medieval, like more towards a medieval fantasy, where
Yeah.
this I would say is like a late 1800s, early 1900s fantasy.
Okay, ever heard of cholera?
Well, yeah, no, I get that. I'm just no. I think remove disease is a bad example for this. It just because the way that it's written just kind of seems to imply that most of the magic is still out of reach. Even though House Jarasco is in charge of healing, well, you still really can't afford healing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, we'll put it this way. It's not out of reach of, say, the elite class, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
the kings, your princes, your noble families, a lot of them would be able to afford it. But as it says, for the most part, common citizens can't like just get a removed disease at a clinic to, get rid of, a general illness.
Well, but I mean, could they then get? I mean, but how likely is it they could get like cure greater wounds or restoration or regrow limb, things like that? So,
Oh, well, the fact is that they can't. That's why the graft uh feat exists.
anyways, I wasn't trying to get into like a huge discussion on it, but it is just one of those things that kind of stuck out on me.
Yeah, no, I get that. Um Although it should be pointed out that when disease has become a problem in the past, the elites do pay to have the disease vectors isolated and for House Jarasco to go through with remove disease on people who are infected with a like widespread plague.
Right.
So there have been cases in the past where it has been done. It's just not
Everyone's got a bat virus in Sharn. Let's go ahead and cure everyone.
like not to point to the real world, but
what who
it,
was doing that? It's a bat virus.
if there happened to have been a like large scale plague that hit the world, for example, you know, you would suddenly find governments suddenly have a stockpile of vaccines to give to people to build up an immune, a resistance to it, so
Right.
that it's not as impacting anymore. This is the same thing. They're not just going to give you remove disease willy nilly.
That's fair. But I mean, I will admit, at least magic works, right?
I'm not getting into that. But
Nope.
yes, it does work.
I regret nothing.
I
All right.
regret everything.
That's probably fair. How about you go ahead and pick it up now?
All right. Communication. Magical long-distance communication is one of the services offered by House Civis, which carries the mark of scribing. The dragon-marked members of this house have abilities such as Whispering Wind and Sending, which they can enhance with certain Dragon Shard items. In addition, they can arrange for secure written communication with illusory script, translate documents with comprehend languages, and notarize documents with arcane mark. House Civis may be one of the most important houses in Corvair simply because it provides its services to customers off the street as well as to members of the other houses. Without Civis notaries, for example, the banking industry would seriously be jeopardized. Sorry, would be seriously jeopardized. House Civis also operates message stations throughout central Corvair. For a fee, a person can send a short verbal or written message from one station to the other where it can be picked up by or otherwise delivered to the recipient in a relatively timely manner. Faster still, but more expensive, are the courier services offered by House Orion. For a hefty fee, a teleporter from the Couriers Guild can carry a document or small package from one location to another. Cheaper than both, though not as fast, is the mail service operated by House Orion and protected by the notarization process of House Civis. Healing.
Real quick, how
Yep.
quickly do you think House Orion could get, say, small miniature figures, to say, from Sharn to Zendrick?
No one likes a smart ass.
I disagree. All right.
Healing. We could all do with a little bit of healing now, couldn't we? House Jarasco carries the mark of healing. Because of the house's efforts and the quality of its services, the people of Corvair visit Jarasco hospitals and not churches or temples when they need wounds healed or diseases removed. Though magical healing is prohibitively expensive for most people, House Jarasco's Healers Guild employs many people trained in the mundane art of healing. These guild members use the heal skill to treat diseases and injuries effectively and even provide long-term care to sick or injured people. Churches and their clerics reserve their healing abilities for members of their faithful, and the aristocracies of the nations who are in most need of them. The aristocracies of the nations who are in most need of them can be of the most benefit to the congregation in question.
Man, words are hard.
Dude, it's 10 at night. Give me a break.
No, that one was a bit of a mess.
Yeah.
But
yeah, now that is a point that I was actually waiting for, because you're saying about, treating, injuries and illnesses. Yeah, using actual alchemical, mundane alchemical practices is how they do it.
Right, exactly. It's and I'd forgotten about that when I brought the point up. It was just that one. I realize that again. I'm trying to not focus on remove disease, but it was the gold cost and and then just stating, oh yeah, all this stuff is actually really out of reach for most people. And I'd forgotten about this part where they still do practice, mundane healing. But
they're basically also in control of like the doctors union who study and develop, what's it called?
Treatments?
No, the mold stuff. What's it called?
Poultices?
No,
No.
the mold stuff that turned out to be really good for us.
Penicillin?
Penicillin.
Antibiotics.
Antibiotics. Yes, like they still control that part of the world's functionality. So yeah, I think that's a really cool aspect that Eberron really dives into, that there is magical healing services, but also they don't just prioritize magical healing. They actually train doctors in alchemical treatments for people.
Well, yeah, because I mean, you may dominate a particular market because of the dragon mark, but when we were reading last time, and I think it's maybe 1,000 members of the house, stretched out across an entire continent, have a dragon mark at any level, yeah, you're going to need, and not everybody can be a wizard, so you're not getting, spell a ton of spell casting anyways.
Well, so, I mean, lots of people can be wizards. It's just who wants to stick around in school for so long?
Right. 8 years of wizard school just to go and just cure light wounds, cure light wounds, cure light wounds. It's not very fun.
Pass. It's
Who's
sorcerer
turn?
Or nothing.
It's sorcerer or nothing. Whose turn is it?
I'll do this next one too.
Okay.
Hospitality. House Galanda enjoys a secure economic position thanks to the Mark of Hospitality. Plenty of inns and taverns operate just fine without any magical support, but establishments affiliated with House Galanda's Hostelers Guild can offer conveniences such as Heroes Feast meals and water guaranteed pure, and even secure extra-dimensional shelters to those with the need and the ability to pay. The Hostelers Guild also inspects and, to some extent, regulates non-affiliated businesses, improving the quality of accommodations throughout Central Corvair. When the rich and influential want to throw a memorable party, they call upon the services of House Galanda to make the event come together.
All right.
Go ahead. I'm just going to quickly say, and that little bit that was thrown in there about extra dimensional protection, you gotta always be careful about those Corey spirits.
They can't technically get to Eberron, so it should be fine.
Until you fall asleep. Then they can follow you back and possess you that way.
Look, possession comes later. We'll get there. All right, transportation.
Hey, isn't possession 9/10 of the law?
Yes. Hence how we have the Kalashtar. You're welcome. All right. Transportation. Magical transportation is available in a variety of forms and controlled by different dragon-marked houses. House Orion, which carries the Mark of Passage, controls the Couriers Guild and the Transportation Guild. Certain scions of House Orion can use teleport to travel limited distances, carrying passengers for a fee. However, far more people have access to and can afford the Lightning Rail, a sequence of magical carriages connected one to another. The Lightning Rail flies along a predetermined line that stretches between the major cities of Onder, Breland, Thrain, and Zilargo. In association with House Vidalis, House Orion also operates caravan routes that use some combination of magical conveyance, mage-bred animals, and mundane draft animals to move goods and passengers throughout Corvair. House Lorandar, which carries the Mark of Storm, uses its mastery of winds to dominate sea travel and shipping, as well as to fly airships across Corvair. Since the destruction of lightning rail lines in the area now called the Mournland, which prevents House Orion's lightning rail carriages from reaching between Western Corvair and Karnath, House Lorander has dominated trade and passenger service between the two sides of the continent. So that is also interesting. Like, I know that there was a lightning rail route into Sire,
Mhm.
and there must have been lightning rail past Sire into Karnath and whatnot. So why don't they still have the lightning rail running on the other side?
Technically, they do, but there's two caveats to that. One, there's no carriages on that side. There were no carriages on that side at the time.
Oh, so the morning happened and there were no carriages over there.
Pretty much.
That's a really weak story hole.
Well, okay, here comes part two. There were carriages that used to be there. But then someone decided that they wanted to fake a peace treaty and instead tried to do an assassination, and they blew up the line, destroying the carriage. And then they wouldn't pay to have it repaired. So House Orion went, well, we're not going to provide you services until you pay us for destroying our line.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. Sorry for the spoiler, folks, but I had a question.
Technically, I think that's in one of the novels, so you'd have to actually go looking for it. But yeah.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
All right. Other services. Wealthy neighborhoods in large cities boast ever-bright lanterns that amplify the light of continual flame spells to illuminate the streets. House Kundarak operates banks using arcane marks provided by House Civis to notarize letters of credit that allow the wealthy to access their resources anywhere in civilized Corvair. House Civis also creates papers for those with a need to prove their identity, often used when traveling throughout the 5 nations and their neighboring countries. Tinkers, usually affiliated with House Cannith, use mending and repair moderate damage to repair household goods. Some cities and towns boast laundries and street cleaners who rely on prestidigitation for their work. Are you glad that I read that paragraph?
No, it's just like a lot of the 5e is always like, what's the point of prestidigitation? It's just a cleaning service. As if there's no real like and it's like none of you have ever played D&D before 5th edition, have you? Otherwise, like again, you don't have to read that far into this chapter to see that there is a setting that wholeheartedly makes the perfect use of prestidigitation. Like, come on. Literally street cleaners and laundromats. Of just people doing prestidigitation, just cleaning people's clothes for them. For a small fee. Like,
I mean, if you're already going to be the laundry lady and you got a little bit of magic in you, why wouldn't you? Do you want to do that by hand?
Like what's that? Like 3 years to study a cantrip like that? Come on.
I don't know. And she probably learned it at her like when her mom was doing it. I don't know.
Exactly. Easy money. It's easy money.
Easy money. But it's still going to take you a while to get that 125 gold pieces for when you get cholera or bat virus.
Well, no. If you've got prestidigitation and you're regularly cleaning up around you, you're probably not going to get sick that often.
That's true. That's true. If you clean everything, you're less likely to get sick.
Yeah.
So make sure you alcohol wipe all of your mail, folks.
All right. Goods. No less common than magical services are products made with the use of magic, whether or not they retain any lingering doyoma once the creation process has ended. Magecraft items. Every Magerite worthy of the name knows the Magecraft spell. Truly expert Coopers?
Yes. Barrel
Sorry,
makers.
for me, that's a beer, so it just seems odd that that's what it's called. Didn't realize it was actually not a beer as well.
You don't know what a Cooper is?
I've only ever heard it as a beer.
Cooper is a barrel maker.
Oh,
Like,
that makes a lot of sense.
Literally, finish reading the sentence.
And they're barrels. And you were worried we wouldn't be entertaining without an audience.
That's true. That's true. I'm quite entertained today.
Okay. Truly expert Coopers recite the Magecraft spell over their barrels. The best blacksmiths chant it as they hammer hot iron, and the finest potters cast it while they spin their clay. The spell's effect is simple. It provides a competence bonus on craft checks, but its ramifications are extensive. Using Magecraft, an artisan can produce fine goods in as little as 3/4 of the time normally required, and an artisan who might otherwise find masterwork goods too challenging to produce can create them by using Magecraft. As a result, Corvair has a larger supply of high-quality goods available, while Magerite artisans make their goods faster and thus earn more money for their labor. Magic items. Magic items are no easier to create in Eberron, but there are more spellcasters making them. The industry of the world turns on the production and sale of magic items, which are created by everyone from common adepts and magerites to artificers and other elite casters. In general, minor magic items are easier to find and purchase in Corvair than described in the Dungeon Master's Guide. The difference is reflected in some adjustments to the GP limit for smaller settlements, as shown on the following table.
Hey, look, a table.
Huh. I'm going to need to come back to this because I completely forgot that was there.
So, short answer, folks, use this instead of the Dungeon Master's Guide, when trying to buy magic items.
Yeah, this significantly changes, reduces the cost of a lot of stuff. Oh boy. And finally, I took my finger off and it swelled. Livestock. House Vidalis, which carries the mark of handling, controls much of the livestock breeding in Corvair. The breeders of House Vidalis use magical enhancements to produce mage-bred animals, creatures with enhanced ability scores that are fast, hardy, and more easily trained. The mage-bred animal template is detailed on page 295. A small number of magical beasts produced through House Vidalis' breeding programs also exist, though in general these creatures have not yet become economically important or available to the general public.
So, you can make magic creatures.
Yes, you can.
We don't know what they do, but you can make them.
Oh, man.
Dude, spoiler, we'll get there.
Yeah, but you should see the ones that they give up in Magic of Eberron.
Okay, that's a different book. I'm saying we'll find out what they do. Now it'll be 6 weeks because we got to get through life in Eberron. But we'll get there, folks. I promise.
Do we have to do life in Eberron? I'm just asking.
Yes, we have to do life in Eberron. All 100 pages of it.
Okay.
All right. Optional material components. Due to the nature of the origin of the world, magic-laced substances, plants with alchemical properties, minerals that focus magical energy, and similar materials abound in Eberron. Many of these items can be used as material components for spells. These spell components are optional and thus not specified as a component in any spell description. Using one of them provides a chance that the potency of the spell will be improved in some way, as indicated in each component's description below. Whether the spell is improved or not, the component is consumed in the casting. Character can only use one optional component casting of any spell. The following table includes only components that are widely available on the open market. A number of tales tell of additional plants, minerals, animal parts, and other substances found in the wilderness regions of Eberron that can enhance spellcasting. If these actually exist, they can be discovered only through quests and over the course of adventures. So here's
dragon shards.
Yes, dragon shards being like the primary one. This is just a list and what you can expect to pay for them. All right. Cathier's spleen. The Cathier is a small, harmless herbivore native to the Eldeen reaches and similar to a hare. Has a magical ability to camouflage itself. Its spleen aids in the casting of illusion spells. When used as a component for an illusion spell, a Cathier spleen has a 60% chance of doubling the spell's duration. Covidish leaves. The Covidish plant grows on the island of Eberron, where it is highly valued by the elves for its necromantic properties. When used as a component in a necromancy spell, Covidish leaves have a 30% chance of increasing the effective caster level by 2. Dragon's Eye Acorn. The Dragon's Eye Oak grows in Kabara, and its acorn aids in the casting of certain evocation spells. When used as a component for evocation spells with an energy descriptor, a Dragon's Eye Acorn has a 10% chance of empowering the spell, as if the caster had applied the Empower spell feat, but without changing the spell's effective level. Hathil Root. The Hathil plant grows in the swamps of the Shadow Marches. When used in the casting of a transmutation spell, Hathil Root has a 35% chance of increasing the saving throw DC by 1. Irian Crystal. This transparent crystal glows with a soft white light. When an Irian crystal is used as a component in any conjuration or healing spell, it has a 15% chance of maximizing the spell, as if the caster had applied the maximized spell feat. Kyrios leaves. The herb known as Kyrios grows only in the region of Eberron known as the Madwood. When used as a component for any spell with the death descriptor, the leaves of the Kyrios plant have a 30% chance of increasing the spell saving throw DC by 2. Laskinhorn. The Laskin, a small antelope native to the Eldeen reaches, has swept back horns that can be used as a material component. When used in the casting of a spell that requires a touch attack, the caster a touch attack, melee or ranged. The caster has a 40% chance to receive a +1 bonus on the attack roll. Mabar Crystal. This inky black crystal, dark as obsidian and slightly translucent, fills certain regions of the Kyberian underworld. When a chunk is used as a component in an evocation, darkness spell, it has a 40% chance of doubling the radius of the effect. Masthin shoots. The Masthin plant, native to the jungles of Kabara, produces natural intoxicants during its early growth and often attracts animals in the wild. When used as a component for any enchantment spell that targets an animal or magical beast, Masthin shoots. Man, I'm either reading too much or going too fast. Masthin shoots have a 40% chance of doubling the spell's duration. Narstone. The strange stone found in the demon waste is believed to be the remains of petrified demon bones. When used as a component in a summoning or calling spell, Narstone has a 20% chance of granting any creature called or summoned by the spell a +1 luck bonus to its armor class. Wreath leaves. The wreath vine is a parasite that grows on trees in the Eldeen reaches. When used as a component for a spell that targets plants or plant creatures, wreath leaves have a 45% chance of increasing the saving DC by 2. Huh. There's fun stuff to do with your magic, folks. That's what the summary is. Apparently,
there's so much there that is just. I should have made notes of this stuff down because I've completely forgotten all this.
I would like to point out, folks, that Seraphis clearly does not read the rulebook.
No, I read it when I created my artificer. But since then, I've had to focus on different things, and that's made me forget. Keep in mind, I've had to remember every single weapon and armor enchantment in this entire edition.
Look, that's coming later. We'll talk about that later.
Yes.
No, but
we'll talk about that later.
Well, no, but actually, I do think that is one of the interesting things. Like this is just something fun. Like I totally get what they're doing here. It's like, we can't rewrite all of the magic, like all the spells or the components, but hey, here's something to, like it can all be used as adventure seeds. I am a wizard. I would like this blah, blah, blah thing for my spell, or I'm a druid, or whatever, so, I want some of this. Oh, they don't have any. Hey, here's a fetch quest, to go get the stuff, so either it sets off an adventure, it's just something to do as a one shot, whatever. And then you get some little boost out of it in the end. So, anyways, read your book better next time, Seraphis.
Before we get started on the planes, did you want to go down a little bit and cover, or did you want me to cover the dragon shards here?
Yeah, do that.
Okay, dragon shards appear in 3 distinct forms, each associated with and originating in a different part of the world. These crystal fragments can be shaped and used to power magical items, artifacts, and constructs, or to enhance the abilities bestowed by dragon marks. All dragon shards appear as translucent rock or crystal with swirling veins of color suspended within them. The veins are reminiscent of dragon marks, but are not copies of them, and the pulsating veins make the stones look almost alive. Though dragon marks are dragon shards are translucent, the glowing veins running through them lend their color to each crystal. Sybaris dragon shards fall from the ring of Sybaris that forms a broken path across the night sky. A pulsating swirl of golden veins glowing within the crystalline depths of a... I think I read something wrong there, but crystalline depths of a Sybaris dragon shard. Kyber dragon shards are found deep in the earth near layers of magma. These living crystals typically grow on cavern walls. A Kyber dragon shard has writhing midnight blue to oily black veins running through it. Eberron dragon shards are buried in the shallow soil of the world and are usually found encased in geode-like stone eggs. An Eberron dragon shard has crimson, blood-red swirls churning within its crystalline surface. And dragon shards are more explained in Chapter 10. Ugh. Yeah, you can't half tell that it's late here, can you? Given how much I'm stumbling over my words. You're muted.
Let's be honest. You stumble over your words at 9 o'clock in the morning. It's fine. So no, the dragon shards, like those are okay. Dragon marks, the draconic prophecy, dragon shards. All of this is intertwined. Like seriously, folks, if you're doing any sort of an Eberron game, make sure you include those things. They're little things, but it just adds a bit to the flavor, in my opinion.
Basically, if you're going to run an Eberron game, start with the dragons. Well, everything starts with dragons.
No, I would say just make sure you include the dragons, whether it's dragon marks or dragon shards or dragons. Include it just to. And don't worry, folks. We'll get into more of it. Like I know there's some stuff that talks about the draconic prophecies. I think it's in the running an Eberron campaign chapter. So we'll talk more about that in a future episode. But yeah, it's very much just a big part of the setting. So don't neglect it. Is kind of my point.
Pretty much. Okay, planes of existence. Eberron spins within its own material plane, enfolded by 3 coexisting transitive planes: the astral plane, the ethereal plane, and the plane of shadow. Just as in the core D&D cosmology. Within Eberron's astral plane, 13 planes revolve in a complex orbit around the material plane. These planes are a combination of features of inner planes and outer planes. Some have an elemental nature, some have alignment tendencies, and others are simply alien worlds. These planes are home to all the extraplanar creatures described in the Monster Manual. In contrast to the core D&D cosmology, the planes are not the homes of the deities, and only one of them, Dolor, is a plane where mortal spirits go upon their death. The 13 orbiting planes are separate from each other with no connections between them. They are coexistent with the astral plane, but separate from the ethereal plane and the plane of shadow. So certain spells, Ethereal Jaunt and Shadow Walk, for example, aren't available to casters on these planes. Each of them occasionally become coterminous with the material plane, allowing connections between the planes. And see planar connections below. So, yep. Now we have the names of all the planes. So, planar connections. As the 13 planes move through the astral plane, their paths take them closer to the material plane at times and further away at other times. A plane's distance from the material plane is described in one of three ways. Coterminous. On rare occasions, a plane comes so near the material plane that it actually touches it. At these times, it is possible to move freely between the material plane and the coterminous plane at certain locations on each plane. For example, when Fernia is coterminous with the material plane, a character can travel to Fernia by means of a volcano or any extremely hot fire. See, it's not sacrificing virgins to a volcano, they're just traveling to another plane.
Exactly.
And the natives of Fernia can enter Eberron just as easily. Different planes as paths through the astral plane bring them into a coterminous relationship with varying frequency. Fernia draws near fairly often, 1 month every 5 years, while Zoriat has not done so in over 7,000 years. When a plane is coterminous to the material plane, certain of its traits.
Mm-hmm.
No, my brain's just not registering properly. Certain of its traits may bleed over into the material plane, or at least into certain regions of the material plane. For example, when Risia is coterminous to the material plane, spells with the cold descriptor are enhanced in certain areas of the material plane. Not all planes have traits that spill over into the material plane. Waxing and waning. As a plane draws closer to becoming coterminous, it is called waxing, and as it moves away after a period of being coterminous, it is waning. No special effects of the material plane occur when a plane is waxing or waning. Remote. When a plane is remote, it is difficult to establish any connection at all between it and the material plane. When Fernia is remote, fire spells work less effectively, fire elementals are harder to summon, and it is nearly impossible to reach that plane via plane shift. Using plane shift to travel to a remote plane or using any spell to call or summon a native of that plane requires a spellcraft check, DC 30 plus spell level. A character with 5 or more ranks in knowledge the planes receives a +2 circumstance bonus on this check. The planes in play. Sages and astronomers of Eberron use complex orreries and extensive charts to track the position of the planes relative to Eberron. No dungeon master should have to go to such lengths. For simplicity in play, bring a given plane into a coterminous position when it suits the needs of your campaign. If consistency is important to you, keep track of when the event occurred and when it will happen again using the information in each plane's description. If not, don't worry about it. Just bring it back into coterminous position the next time it suits your campaign. The planes spend most of the time either waxing or waning, so it is safe to assume that any time it matters, the PCs can summon whatever monster they want to without making a spellcraft check, or even travel to another plane using plane shift as they desire. Only put as much effort into tracking the planar positions as the needs of your campaign demand.
So so real quick, I just wanted to kind of show off their planar cosmology for Eberron. But before I talk about this, I actually agree with their approach. That if you think it's worth it to track is it remote? Is it coterminous? Whatever. If it's important to the story, just do it. Who cares? Because otherwise, they use the example of Fernia. Well, it is coterminous frequently, once a month or 1 month out of every 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you playing one time? Are you going to advance all of your characters 5 years because you need it back in play again? Anyways, so I actually agree with that. Just do what the story implies. Obviously do what you want at your table, but at my table, it would, like, if I think it's important, it's going to be fine.
Oh, yeah. I mean, absolutely. If I was running Eberron, I would very much play loosey-goosey with the planes. And if I needed, for some reason, if I just had Fernia because of something dramatic that I thought would be cool, being coterminous, and then something happened that I needed it back there again, like a month later, I'd be like, Dragon Prophecy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, there you go.
If my players want an example or a reason, why is it suddenly back in coterminous? Dragon Prophecy.
Yeah.
You can't argue with the Dragon Prophecies.
Right, exactly.
Otherwise, one of the last 2 Quattles will hunt you down and kill you.
Yes.
With a wish spell, which they can cast at will.
Right. And so that's the thing. I mean, there's plenty of good story mechanics you could do, to make it happen if you really, really needed it to. So anyways, folks, the reason that I wanted to show this off, because we're going to start getting into all the different planes, is because this is actually a bit more important than it necessarily seems. I still haven't found it. Seraphis thinks it's in like Secrets of Sarlona or something. Anyways, we'll figure out eventually where it's mentioned. But technically, all of the planes are mapped to one of the moons around Eberron. And so this isn't just a map of the planes. This is a map of, the planetary system. So that's where I think it actually does get kind of interesting, especially where they've got, like they did the rules for Spelljammer again, or if you want to adapt older edition rules for Spelljammer, you can do a lot more with this than just have it, this magic cosmological thing. Why not do a Spelljammer type game, and actually travel to the moon that the plane is attached to? Is that even possible?
No.
Oh. Well, it is in my game.
No, it's not. Because the Ring of Sybaris is a massive anti-magic field that immediately shuts down any kind of magic trying to go through it. So you can't actually get to the moons because the Ring of Cerberus stops you.
It's a ring, not a sphere. You go around it.
How exactly are you doing that?
Magic.
Do you have the... are you an Archmage prestige class who can shape magic?
I mean, I was in a previous life, so I could probably figure it out again.
That's a no, folks.
That it is a no, folks. No, again, like we'll learn more as we get into more of the books, but I do think I still think it's something interesting about Eberron where they like it's just done a bit differently, and I like how they did it. So yes, I have a lot to learn as far as okay, can it be done? Should it be done? But I still think it could be some fun stories trying to figure it out. Yeah.
I was trying to cheat and use the Eberron wiki to track down which book specifically mentions the moons and stuff, but it's not helping.
All right, fair enough.
It has 25 references, and it basically names every single damn book. That's not helpful.
All right. Manifest zones. Certain locations on, within, and above Eberron share a particularly close connection to one of the planes. These locations are known as manifest zones. For example, the Gloaming, a region within the Eldine Reaches, has a close connection to Mabar, the plane of endless night. The connection enhances the power of negative energy in that region. The Shadow Marches have a number of small magic zones tied to Zoriat. The Realm of Madness, which both enhance transmutation magic and occasionally trigger wild magic effects. Parts of Aranel have close ties to either Irian or Mabar, which accounts for at least in part, for the prominent role of necromantic magic in the Undying Court on the Elven continent. To an extent, manifest zones defy the normal interrelationship amongst the planes. The effects of a zone may wane slightly when its connected plane is remote, and wax equally slightly when the plane draws closer, but the connection never vanishes entirely. Manifest zones sometimes allow passage between the planes when another plane becomes coterminous to the material plane. Specific important manifest zones are detailed in Chapter 7. These zones are permanent and in most cases have had a profound impact on the land around them and the people who live there. Smaller and less important manifest zones are located across Eberron, and it is possible that new ones appear even as old ones leak out of existence. The appearance and disappearance of these zones does not seem to have any connection to the linked plane's cosmological position relative to the material plane. No manifest zone linked to Dalcor exists. Minor zones and occasionally major zones linked to every other plane exist somewhere on Eberron. All right. Plane descriptions. The planes of Eberron's cosmology are briefly described below. Each plane description includes a list of creatures from the monster manual that are native to that plane. A few monsters from other sources are included in some entries as well. These are listed separately from the monster manual monsters. Each plane's entry also details the effects on the material plane when that plane is
coterminous.
What?
I'm going to guess coterminous.
Yes, coterminous or remote, and approximately how often these phases occur. Eberron's transitive planes are identical to those planes as detailed in the Dungeon Master's Guide, so they do not have entries here. See the DMG for definitions of planar traits not described below. So, real quick, for my idiocy, the transitive planes, that's just the plane of shadow and the astral plane, right?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, so plane of shadow. Oh, no, ethereal plane. That's the one I meant.
Oh.
The ethereal plane and the plane of shadow. So, all right. Well, I guess we can each, take one back and forth. Yeah, just burn it. Burn through.
All right. You want me to go first, or do you want to take the first
you
one?
go first.
All right. Dan V, the perfect order. Orderly fields where Formians tend ideal crops, regimental garrisons of disciplined soldiers, and peaceful communities where law reigns supreme manifests throughout the plane of Dan V, the perfect order. Similar in many aspects to the plane of Arcadia in the D&D cosmology, Dan V is a place where all things live in harmony. Born of order. Dan V has the following traits. Alterable morphic. Not quite sure what that is.
Me neither.
Strongly law aligned. Enhanced magic. Spells with the lawful descriptor are maximized and enlarged. Impeded magic. Spells with the chaotic descriptor are impeded, requiring a spellcraft check, DC 15 plus spell level, to cast successfully. Dan V inhabitants. Formian worker, Formian warrior, Formian taskmaster, Formian Mirmarch, Formian queen, Colliarot? Oh, inevitable. And Zelakut, inevitable. Manual of Planes, axiomatic creatures, template. Monster Manual 3, Justicator, and Visalite. That's a weird one. Coterminous. Dunvey exerts no unusual influence on the material plane when it is coterminous. Superstition tends to link historical periods of stability to the proximity of Dunvey, but this claim is unsubstantiated. Danvey is coterminous to the material plane for 1 century in every 4. Remote. Just as Danvey's proximity has little impact on the material plane, the periods when it is remote likewise seem to manifest no unusual effects. Danvey is remote for 1 century in every 4, separated from its coterminous periods by a century.
Okay. Dalcor, the region of dreams. When mortals dream, they psychically project their minds to Dalcor, the plane where dreams play out. Dalcor is ringed with dreamscapes, small, temporary envelopes of pseudo-reality where dreamers live their dreams for a short time. Within the ring, however, exists an entirely different world. Magnificent domed cities, called up from the formless void of dream stuff, spread across the inside of the ring of dreamscapes, allowing the Kori who live there easy access to their food supply, the psychic energy of dreaming mortals. Beyond the cities of the Kori, a roiling boil of dream-born landscapes melt, burn, grow, and dissolve without any rhyme or reason. Tales persist of a calm eye at the center of this storm, but they are most likely figments of some half-remembered dream. It has the following traits. Subjective directional gravity. Flowing time. For every 10 minutes spent on Dalcor, 1 minute passes on the material plane. Highly morphic. The stuff of dream alters with the thoughts of the dreamer. Beyond the dreamscapes, in the heart of Dalcor, the Kori can manipulate matter with ease, while visitors have a harder time altering the environment. Enhanced spells. Spells of the illusion school are extended. The inhabitants are Kori, see page 296. Remote. Dalcor last became coterminous with the material plane some 40,000 years ago, at which time the Kori invaded Zendrick. The giants of Zendrick managed to end the war and sever the connections between the planes, but at great cost. The devastation of Zendrick and the decimation of the civilization of the giants. In the process, Dalcor itself was thrown off its orbit. As a result, Dalcor is always remote in relation to the material plane. The only way to reach Dalcor from the material plane is through the psychic projection of dreaming, and the Kori have been forced to find new ways to work their will on the material plane. All right, what are you chuckling about?
Okay, I'm just going to be quick about this, but technically, the Kori weren't responsible for the destruction of the giants' civilization. After all, the giants won the war. It was what the giants did afterwards that got their civilization destroyed.
You always got to defend the bad guy.
I'm not defending them. They had it coming.
So, is it worth the spoiler, or should we wait until we get to the particular book?
Okay, well, if anyone's watching who's might be playing any Zendrick adventures, specifically around giants, cut for, say, 2 minutes until we scroll to the next plane. But otherwise, you've had your warning. Basically, following the victory, the giants were like, well, we don't really need the dragons anymore as our allies. So let's try to bend them to our will now too. So they started creating orbs of dragon kind. So, and the dragons kind of found out about this, and well, there were so many dragons, it blackened the entire skies of Zendrick.
So what you're saying is they got too big for their britches, and the dragon smacked them down.
Yes.
And that's why they lost their civilization.
And now they're so primitive that they think if they eat magic people, they will get their magic back.
I mean, there's an argument there.
Yeah, of course you would be on the Gargamel side of things, wouldn't you?
I mean, Gargamel did nothing wrong. Not you.
You say I'm on the bad guy side all the time. Look at you defending Gargamel.
Goodness. They're 3 apples top. They're 3 apples high. They're all blue, and there's only one girl in the bunch. You know, there's some sort of disease running rampant.
Why do you think Papa Smurf is always so tired and constantly working? Someone's got to cure that syphilis.
Anyways, let's get moving.
Really, you don't want to keep talking about the etymology of Smurfs? Okay.
Nope.
Dolor, the realm of the dead, a place of helplessness, eternal despair, and consuming apathy. I know that feeling. Dolor is the realm where mortal souls go after death. It is not a reward. It is not a punishment. It just is. Dolor has the following traits: heavy gravity, timeless, impeded magic. All spells are impeded. Entrapping. A visitor to Dolor experiences increasing apathy and despair while there. Colors become grayer and less vivid. Sounds duller, and all experiences tainted with ennui.
Ennui.
Is that right? Oh, ennui. You know, I've never actually seen that written. Ennui. At the conclusion of every day or subjective time spent in Dolor, any non-native must make a will saving throw, DC 15 plus number of consecutive days in Dolor. Failure indicates that the individual has fallen entirely under the control of the plane, becoming an incorporeal shade, an outsider native of the plane. Travelers trapped by Dolor cannot leave the plane of their own volition and have no desire to do so. Memories of any previous life fade into nothingness, and it takes a wish or a miracle spell to return them. Dolor inhabitants: Naufeshni, demons; Lemur, devils; and Marut, inevitables. From Monster Manual 3, Sorrow Sworn, demons; Ephemeral Swarm, and Plague Brush. And coterminous. When Dolor is coterminous, slippage can sometimes occur between the material plane and the realm of the dead. Ghosts become common on Eberron because it is as easy for spirits to remain in the world of the living as it is for them to pass to Dolor. Spells to bring back the dead work normally, but run the risk of calling back more spirits than the one desired. Whenever a character is brought back from the dead, while Dolor is coterminous, Roll on the following table. That is not a great table.
Look, I mean,
Dollar.
you got a 50-50 chance of it being normal or going sideways. Just depends on how sideways.
Yeah, look, I'm just going to say the way I usually roll in this current game where I'm a player, I would be bringing things back with me all the time. Thank goodness I'm not a cleric. Dollar is coterminous for a period of 1 year every century, precisely 50 years after each period of being remote. Remote. When Dollar is remote, spells that bring back the dead do not function, and it is impossible to reach Dollar by means of plane shift. Only by journeying to Dollar using astral projection, gate, or a permanent portal to the plane, finding the soul of the deceased and bringing it back to the material plane, can a deceased character be returned to life during this period. Once soul is back on the material plane, no further magic is required to restore the dead to life. Both Naufeshnis and Maruts frown on having souls retrieved in this manner, however. Dollar is remote for a period of 1 year every century, precisely 50 years after each coterminous phase.
So I would like to point out that I had the microphone muted so that I could cough, and then I forgot to unmute it. And I was very disappointed because I had a really funny joke when you're like, oh, if somebody fails that saving check and gets stuck in the realm of the dead, then you'd need like a wish or a miracle spell. And I was going to say, which is currently 10% off at any House Jurasco healing center, but only during this live stream. So anyways, I wanted to get that out, folks, but it's nowhere near as funny right now.
Oh, now you get to cover my favorite people.
Well, you know how well we plan these things.
Yeah.
All right.
You set me up to fail every time.
Usually. All right. Fernia, the Sea of Fire. Flame covers everything on Fernia, the Sea of Fire. The ground is nothing more than great, ever-shifting plates of compressed flame, ash, and debris. The air ripples with the heat of continual firestorms. Oceans of liquid flame ebb and flow, and mountains ooze with molten lava. Fire rages with no need for fuel or air across this continually burning landscape. It has the following traits. Fire dominant, mildly evil aligned. Enhanced magic, spells with the fire descriptor are maximized and enlarged. Impeded magic, spells with the cold descriptor are impeded. Inhabitants, Azer, Balor, Pit Fiend, Fire Elemental, Ifriti, Hellhound, Magmin, Fire Mephit, Magma Mephit, Steam Mephit, Rast, Salamander. From the Manual of the Planes, you get the Fury, Magma Para Elemental. Whew. Monster Manual 3, Cinder Swarm, Conflagration Ooze, Harseth, Folarch, Zizir. I'm just gonna leave that one right there. When Fernia is
don't know how to say Zazir.
We'll talk about it later. Coterminous. When Fernia is coterminous to the material plane, regions of intense heat, primarily areas surrounding volcanoes, begin to take on some of the plane's traits. Conditions of extreme heat, air temperature over 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Nope, not going to convert to Celsius. Although, never mind. It'd be like 60 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, no, that's like outback temperature. That's fine.
Become even more intense. Breathing such hot air deals 1d8 points of damage per minute, and the heat itself deals 1d6 points of non-lethal damage every 5 minutes. Fortitude DC 20 plus 1 per previous check negates. Lava or magma deals 46 points of damage per round of exposure, plus 2d6 points of damage per round for 1d4 rounds after exposure ceases. Entering a pool of lava or similar manifestation of tremendous heat, such as a raging firestorm in the Mournland, while Fernia is coterminous, has a 30% chance of causing a character to be whisked to the Sea of Fire. Similarly, natives of Fernia can enter the material plane in such areas and are 70% likely to be encountered near any area of intense heat. In areas of extreme heat, spells with the fire descriptor are enhanced by being automatically enlarged and empowered. Furnia is coterminous to the material plane for 1 month, the midsummer month of Larvion, every 5 years. Remote. When Furnia is remote from the material plane, heat becomes somewhat less intense. Conditions of extreme heat are reduced in severity. Breathing the hot air deals only 1d4 points of damage per minute, and the heat itself deals only 1d3 points of non-lethal damage every 5 minutes. Lava or magma deals 2d4 points of damage per round of exposure, plus 1d4 points of damage per round for 1d3 rounds after exposure ceases. Except in areas of extreme heat, spells with the fire descriptor are more difficult to cast, requiring a spellcraft check. Furnia is remote from the material plane for 1 month, the midwinter month of Zarantir, every 5 years, 2.5 years after each coterminous phase.
Yep. And I do want to point out, now that we've had a couple of examples, you notice how inhabitants of each of these planes go by their, like, either alignment or their elemental affinity rather than, say, specifically being a fiend, an elemental, things like that. I think that's rather interesting.
Okay. I mean, I hadn't noticed it, but again, my lack of experience doesn't have me running around the D&D planes ever. But yeah, I mean, usually it's like, this is the plane of like aberrations or devils or whatever. And this one, it's like, yeah, they lean bad, but it's all this fire stuff. You know, I have no issues with, I mean, if you're going to have 13 very specific planes, I mean, it kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah. And it's also funny that I can't remember which book it is in later on, but when it talks about Furnia, it mentions how basically the entire world, if you go there, like the entire plane when you go there, is basically one giant battlefield of the elementals on one side and all the fiends on the other side, just warring it out constantly for control.
I mean, what else are you going to do?
Well, yeah, but it's kind of funny that, like,
well, they're mildly evil, and you're an elemental. I mean, it's not like you're, I am going to make a suit of armor. It's like, I'm fire.
Yeah, but the Azers are. And the fire elementals are on the Azers and the Ifriti side, so,
But I'm not trying to make... okay, never mind. I was trying to make sense of this, but, whatever. It's a game.
Dear. All right, Irion, the Eternal Day. On Irion, a brilliant white sun hangs in the center of a crystalline sky, bathing the radiant landscape below in shadowless light. Forests of crystalline growths, mountains of pure quartz, rivers of liquid glass, and sun-bleached deserts of pure white sand define the landscape of this plane. Irion is awash in positive energy, not intense enough to harm life, but sufficient to encourage and sustain life in a variety of unusual forms. Creatures of light and life make their home here, but they are not necessarily creatures of good. Irion has the following traits. Minor positive dominant. Enhanced magic. Spells that use positive energy, including cure spells, are maximized. Characters receive a +4 bonus on charisma checks to turn undead and receive the maximum possible turning damage result. Impeded magic. Spells that use negative energy are impeded. Irion inhabitants. Lantern Archon. Ravid. Manual of the Plains. Zagya. Monster Manual 3. Lumi. Coterminous. When Irion contacts the material plane, life blossoms where the two planes touch. Days are brighter, colors are more vibrant, sensations are more intense. That's the party zone right there. Spells that use positive energy are cast at +1 caster level, and clerics turn undead as if they were 1 level higher. Unlike with most other planes, Irion's influence does not reach to specific planes on the material plane during its coterminous phases. Rather, its manifestations occur for the hour surrounding noon across Eberron. Irion is coterminous for a period of 10 days in the springtime month of Ira, once every, or air. No, it's probably air, isn't it? Yeah. Once every 3 years.
Not that important to me.
Yeah. Fine. Remote. As life blossoms when Irion draws near, life loses its bloom when Irion moves to its remote position. Nights are darker, colors seem to fade, and a numbness hangs in the air. Spells that use positive energy are cast at -1 caster level, and clerics turn undead as if they were 1 level lower. These effects pervade Eberron for a period of 10 days in the autumn month of Sephiros, once every 3 years, a year and a half after each coterminous phase.
So it's the healing, or the, not healing, but yeah, I mean,
positive plane, man.
Yeah, it's all good vibes, man.
Vibes. You should know about the vibes, man. It makes you feel good.
Kithri, the churning chaos, a roiling soup of land, water, air, protoplasmic ooze, fire, magma, hissing steam, smoke, dust, ice, blinding light, pitch darkness, acid, flashing lightning, cacophonous sound, and seemingly every other substance and energy found in the universe fills the plane of Kithri. Okay, they could have... Like, I kind of get what they were going, but man, that was a list.
Oh, yeah.
Every part of the plane constantly changes. A creature native or just visiting can sometimes exert enough will to hold a location constant and stable for a short time. Has the following traits. Objective directional gravity. The direction of gravity changes frequently. Highly morphic. Kithri constantly changes. A given area, unless magically stabilized somehow, can react to specific spells or sentient thought. Strongly chaos aligned. Enhanced magics. Spells with the chaotic descriptor are maximized and enlarged. Impeded magic. Spells with the lawful descriptor are impeded. Inhabitants. Chaos Beast, Githzerai, Howler, Slad, Titan. And from Monster Manual 3, Quaraphon. Whoa. That is... All right. Kithri's proximity has no unusual effects on the material plane, though popular superstition links its coterminous phase to historical periods of unrest and conflict. For example, some stargazers believe that Kithri was coterminous to Eberron's material plane in the years before King Jarrett's death and the first decades after the start of the last war, but no firm evidence exists to support this theory. True to the plane's chaotic nature, Kithri's movement through the astral plane is utterly erratic, entering a coterminous phase at apparently random intervals and remaining in that state for anywhere from a day to a century. Remote. When Kithri is remote, it exerts no noticeable effect on the material plane. What?
I just love how chaotic Kithri is. Like, when it's not around, you don't notice it. But when it's around, it's...
You can't not notice it.
You can't not notice it when it decides to happen.
Yeah.
Like, it's the ultimate so random lol meme. It's just...
So...
Like 20 years before that meme even came about.
I'm starting to understand the morphic. It's like, how stable is the plane, essentially.
Okay.
Which then, going back to Donvi, so it says alterable morphic, which Which, I mean, I guess makes sense because so it's a plane of order. Well, you can reorder an order, but it will hold its shape, while you're there.
Yeah.
I think that's what alterable morphic means.
All right. Huh?
I don't know. Well, I mean, that's how I'm going to explain it.
I guess I got to read the forward sections of the Dungeon Master's Guide if I want to figure that one out.
Probably.
Yeah. All right. Lamania, the Twilight Forest. Yes, Brian. Lamania, the Twilight Forest.
I thought No, I just read Kithri. Or am I missing something?
Just wait. Okay. Just wait. Lamania, the Twilight Forest, is a realm of raw and wild nature unbound, untouched by civilization. Despite the plane's name, the forests that stretch in all directions are not its only terrain feature. Majestic mountains, wild grasslands, sultry swamps, rolling hills, and even deserts and tundras make up the vibrant biosphere of Lamania. All kinds of plants, animals, magical beasts, and bestial outsiders are found in the Twilight Forest, as well as air, earth, and water elementals. Lycanthropes, too, rare on Eberron, are common in Lamania, since many fled to this plane during the crusade that nearly exterminated them from Corvair.
Hey, man. Eventually the crusade's going to have to move.
Lamania has the following trait. Enhanced magic druid spells are extended. Lamania inhabitants. Oh, jeez.
Let's just do this. There's a lot of inhabitants.
There are.
I mean, most of it seems... So, again, elementals, invisible stalkers. Lycanthropes. Other than that, I would just leave it as there's a lot in there.
Things that revolve around being beasts and the like are generally going to be what's in there.
If you're going to be lost in the woods and afraid of it, I just thought of it. It's the Harry Potter forest. Why can't I remember it? The Forbidden Forest. From Harry Potter.
I've barely watched it before. Sorry.
You never read the books?
No. Harry Potter. Yeah, the forest. He was trying to remember what the hidden forest was. The name of it.
The Forbidden Forest.
Yeah, the Forbidden Forest.
Seraphis has his own peanut gallery today, folks.
Yes.
Well, anyways, but the Forbidden Forest, it has giant spiders and werewolves and, in one of the stories that,
centaurs.
Right, centaurs and,
unicorns and...
Right, so
Hagrid's half brother. Oh my god, do you really want to go into it?
No. Hagrid's hut is not in the Forbidden Forest.
Hagrid's half brother.
Hagrid's half brother, yes. So short answer, if you want to, that's how I would describe this place. It's the Forbidden Forest from Harry Potter.
But with more werewolves.
With more werewolves. Yeah. And if I just kept my mouth shut, you could have read through all of the monsters.
Look, we're here now. Why don't we just move on, huh?
Yeah.
Coterminous. When Lamania is coterminous to the material plane, the power of nature grows. In regions of unspoiled nature, particularly the Eldian reaches, plants grow more verdant and animals breed more prolifically. Some of nature's ally spells are extended throughout the material plane. Lamania is coterminous for a period of 1 week every 12 months. Wow, there's some rabbit breeding out there. Remote. When Lamania is remote from the material plane, nature's power diminishes. Animals have Animals have small litters, and plants, even cultivated crops, grow poorly. Some of nature's ally spells are impeded during this time. Lamania is remote for a period of 1 week every 12 months, exactly 6 months after each coterminus phase.
It's early, or it's late spring and early, or late fall. That makes total sense.
Yep.
So, all right. Mabar, the endless night. Utter blackness where no light shines fills the plain of Mabar, the endless night. The starless night lasts forever, its gloom never diminishing in the least. The darkness literally devours the life of visitors on to this plane, extinguishing every spark of light that dares intrude upon the endless night. Mabar has the following traits. Minor negative dominant, enhanced magic, spells that use negative energy, including inflict spells, are maximized. Impeded magic, spells that use positive energy are impeded. Mabar inhabitants, Barghest, Bodak, Succubus, Nightshade, Shadow Mastiff, Manual of the Plains, Zegi, Yugoloth, Monster Manual 3, Gloom Golem, Necronaut, Trillock, Vasuthant, Yugoloth. Apparently it's in multiple places. All the creatures listed above are immune to damage from negative energy, including the ambient energy of the plane. Coterminus. When Mabar is coterminous to the material plane, every shadow grows blacker and colder, and the nights become far deadlier. Spells that use negative energy are cast at +1 caster level if cast in darkness, and evil clerics rebuke or command undead as though they were 1 level higher, as long as they are in darkness. During the night and while underground, travel between the planes is much easier. Simply stepping into an area where no light shines can transport a character from Eberron to Mabar, and Barghest and shadows emerge from the endless night to hunt the Knights of Eberron. Mabar enters a coterminous phase for 3 dark nights once every 5 years, on the nights of the new moon closest to the winter solstice. When Mabar is remote, shadows seem a little lighter and nights not so fearsome. Spells that use negative energy are cast at -1 caster level, day or night, and evil clerics rebuke or command undead as if they were 1 level lower. Mabar is remote for a period of 5 autumn days once every 5 years, around the full moon nearest to the summer solstice, and 2.5 years after each coterminous phase. I like that one. That one just sounds fun.
Yeah.
Like you can do a lot of stuff with that. Like like here's like just do a Jack the Ripper story in Sharn, during the coterminous phase.
Oh, you don't even need to go like that. Oh, I mean, kind of like that, but like you can just do a good old fashioned Halloween game with that setup.
Oh yeah, absolutely. See, there we go. We gave you folks 2 ideas.
2 ideas. Ryzia, the Plain of Ice. A blizzard above a field of blowing snow that covers an infinite glacier. Ryzia consists of layer upon layer of cold and ice. Though mountains break the surface of the plain here and there, they are formed of solid ice, not stone. Lakes and streams mark the landscape, but they are not made of water. They are places where the air itself has congealed to a frigid liquid, deadly to the touch. The atmosphere of Ryzia freezes the eyes and lungs, the wind steals breath, and the snow buries and entombs all things. Ryzia has the following traits: mildly evil aligned, enhanced magic, spells with the cold descriptor are maximized and enlarged, impeded magic, spells with the fire descriptor are impeded, cold. The average temperature of Ryzia is 0 degrees Fahrenheit. On any given day, there is a 50% chance of extreme weather in the form of snow, sleet, hail, or a blizzard. Ryzia inhabitants: Ice Devil, Ice Mephit, Manual of the Plains, Ice Para Elemental, Monster Manual 2, Frost Salamander, Emoth, Monster Manual 3, Shrull, Rejka, Snowflake Ooze. Coterminus: When Risia is coterminous to the material plane, regions of intense cold, primarily the Frostfell in the distant north, but also the northern reaches of Corvair, begin to take on some of the plane's traits. Conditions of extreme cold, air temperature below 20 F, become even more intense. The cold deals 1d8 points of non-lethal damage every 10 minutes. Fort save DC 20 plus 1 per previous check negates. Entering an area of intense cold, such as a raging blizzard in the Frostfell, while Ricea is coterminous, has a 30% chance of opening a contemporary conduit to Ricea, taking creatures within their area to the plane of ice. Similarly, natives of Ricea can enter the material plane in such areas, and are 70% likely to be encountered near any area of intense cold. In areas of extreme cold, spells with the cold descriptor are enhanced by being automatically enlarged and empowered. Ricea is coterminous to the material plane during the midwinter month of Zarantia, once every 5 years. Remote. When Ricea is remote from the material plane, cold becomes somewhat less intense. Conditions of extreme cold, air temperatures below minus 20 F, are reduced in severity. The cold deals only 1d4 points of non-lethal damage every 10 minutes. DC 12 plus 1 per previous check negates. Except in areas of extreme cold, spells with the cold descriptor are more difficult to cast, requiring a spellcraft check, DC 15 plus spell level. Ricea is remote from the material plane during the midsummer month of Lavion, once every 5 years, 2.5 years after each coterminous phase.
Sounds chilly. Bring a sweater, folks.
Maybe a endure elements as well.
Enjoy elements?
Endure.
Oh, endure elements.
Yes.
I say, cast enjoy elements and you get, skis and and a magical chairlift. I don't know.
No, that's Clothier's closet.
Clothier's got. All right. Shavarath, the battleground. 3 great armies mass eternally on the barren plains of Shavarath, a celestial host of archons, an infernal regiment of devils, and a swarming horde of demons. Warfare defines all aspects of their existence. Alliances come and go, usually involving the devils allying with one or the other of their enemies and then breaking the alliance when the situation changes to their advantage. But the warfare never ends. Slain soldiers eventually return, usually in a lower form, but the armies of the 3 forces remain forever in a rough balance. Fortresses dot the landscape of Shavarath, each one locked in a great siege. Every fortress eventually falls, and they all shift hands many times before finally becoming reduced to rubble. As one collapses, a new one is built to replace it. Beyond these fortresses, the rocky and barren landscape stretches in all directions, sporadically accentuated by low hills, the only distinguishable terrain anywhere on the plain. Shavarath has the following traits. Alignment. Areas held by the Archons are mildly good aligned and mildly lawfully aligned. Areas held by the devils are mildly evil aligned and lawfully aligned. Areas held by the demons are mildly chaos aligned and mildly evil aligned. These areas shift constantly, and their borders as fluid as the tide of war. Enhanced magic. Spells that create, enhance, or mimic weapons, such as Flame Blade, Keen Edge, or Mordenkainen's Sword, and spells that excite hostile emotions, such as Rage, Heroism, and Antipathy, are extended. Impeded magic. Compulsions that calm or pacify hostile creatures, and all charms are impeded. Whirling blades. Creatures not native to Shavarath are subject to attack by whirling blades that travel the plane like flocks of birds. For every hour characters spend on the plane, they have a 70% chance of encountering a cloud of blades that attack for 2d6 rounds and then disperse. In each of those rounds, the blades attack every character using an attack bonus of plus 10 and dealing 2d6 points of damage on each successful hit. The blades are treated as magic and evil-aligned weapons for the purpose of overcoming damage reduction. Why do you keep laughing?
because this plane hates you so much, even the wind is armed.
Like the only question I have, so it's like, okay, so the cloud of blades attacks you, but it's like, if you haven't taken a side in any of the battles, therefore not upsetting the balance, why would the plane care?
Because you could, and you're there.
I get that. I'm just like okay, if I were a game master, I would only start using this like if the players start trying to involve themselves in whatever's going on in the plane. Trying to find like the general of the angels or whatever. Okay, well, and I would also slowly ramp it up. Like, the more that they try to do, the more they would be attacked. It as actually, as I would like to, or as I will probably ashamedly admit, in my early days trying to figure out what role-playing games were, because I didn't have anyone that taught me, I was playing with a buddy of mine, and like, he wasn't doing what I want, so I'm like, there's a giant shadow over you, and it's like, well, I look up, it's like, you can't see anything, basically implying like, there's a giant here who's, unless you do what I want you to, he's gonna step on you. Like that's kind of how I would run this. The cloud of blades. So
to be fair, I kind of did something similar, except when I first DM'd back with my group in 1999 to 2000, whenever it was, and it got rotated around to my turn doing it, because we would just random roll on the chart back in basic, right?
Sure.
And they were annoying because I know my friends and they're going to be annoying.
As friends are.
I random rolled and I rolled a dragon. And I was just like, this couldn't be more perfect. I'm just going to leave those dice there just in case they decide to be like, oh yeah, I bet you didn't really roll a dragon. No, I've rolled the dragon. I'm just going to leave the dice there. You guys can just enjoy the fact that I'm now going to murder all of you because I hate you all. You left me to die in the dungeons for the last 6 times. Now I'm going to murder you all so that you will have to roll up fresh characters too.
Exactly. All right. Obviously, lots of inhabitants, archons, demons, devils, etc. If it's labeled as such, feel free to use it. Coterminus. When Shavarath draws near, echoes of its endless battles manifest on the material plane. In any area embroiled in combat, the enhanced magic and impeded magic traits of Shavarath spill onto the material plane. Casting an impeded spell requires a spellcraft check. Also, storms of whirling blades are known to appear at the sites of great battles, both past and present, when Shavarath is coterminous. Shavarath is coterminous to the material plane for 1 year out of every 36 years. When Shavarath is remote, no known effects manifest on the material plane.
Now, I have a request.
Okay.
Can I take the next 2?
Go for it.
Cool. I mean, this one is my turn anyway.
Or do you want me to do this one and then you could do Thelanis and Zoriat?
No. I've already been skimming this one over while you've been reading the previous one. So I've
just checking.
Yeah, no.
The
next one is my favorite. So
I know that's fine.
Sarania, the azure sky. Crystalline cities float in Sarania's endless expanse of clear blue sky, their spires glittering in the ambient radiance of its perfect atmosphere. These cities, each ruled by a solar, are the homes of the angels. Angels are the only known inhabitants of this plane, and, though little is known of Sarania, it seems to be a nearly perfect paradise. Following traits: light gravity, strongly good aligned, enhanced magic, Spells with the good descriptor are empowered. Impeded magic. Spells with the evil descriptor are impeded. Inhabitants, angels, prismatic golems from Monster Manual 3. Coterminous. When Serania is coterminous, the skies are cloudless and richly blue during the day, and deep midnight blue even in the darkest hour of the night. It is possible to travel to Serania simply by flying upward to the limit of Eberron's atmosphere. Spells with the good descriptor are empowered, and spells with the evil descriptor are impeded. Casting such a spell requires a spellcraft check DC 15 plus spell level. Serania is coterminous to the material plane for 1 day every 10 years. Remote. When Serania is remote, the sky is slate grey or white during the day and the lightless black at night. Spells with the evil descriptor are empowered, and spells with the good descriptor are impeded. Casting such a spell requires a spellcraft check, DC 15 plus spell level. Serania is remote for 1 day every 10 years, 5 years after each coterminous phase.
This one does kind of poke some holes in my theory of, using Spelljammer with Eberron.
Yep.
But it just says it's possible to travel there simply by flying upward. It doesn't say you will get there just by flying up there.
It's kind of the same way that, like, technically speaking, if you traveled through the frozen north, you could technically find your way to, Ryzia, but it's not guaranteed.
Right. So I'm still in favor of mixing some Spelljammer and Eberron.
Oh yeah, and Keith Baker has gone on his website, Dragonmarked, to actually outline ways in which spelljamming can actually work in Eberron. Because when they were originally designing it, they were figuring out how it would work within the Spelljammer universe, because at the time, Wizards hadn't said that it was off the table yet.
Fair enough.
Yep. Okay. So, Thelanis, the Fairy Court. Physically similar to both Eberron and Lamania, Thelanis is a realm of rugged natural beauty, primarily lush forests and crystal clear waters. Among the trees rise shadowy spires of enchanting beauty, surrounded by mesmerizing lights that look like dancing lanterns. Phosphorescence gleams on plants and stones, lighting the eternal twilight of the plain, while a multitude of stars twinkle in the sky. Thelanis has the following traits. Enhanced magic. Arcane spells are empowered and extended. Flowing time. For every day spent on Thelanis, 1 week passes on the material plane. Time lost on Thelanis catches up with the traveler. Non-natives who spend time on Thelanis and then return to their home plane may be ravenous if they have not eaten in weeks as measured by material plane time, and they may actually grow old or die if they have been a long time on Thelanis. Natives of Thelanis are unaffected by this phenomenon. Yeah. Thank you. And now you get the glow from below. Oh yeah, inhabitants. So Dryad, Aladrin, Iland, Nymph, Satyrs, Sprites, and Tritons. From Monster Manual 2, Slives. And from Monster Manual 3, Petal, Shimmerling Swarm, and Thorns. Coterminous. When Thelanis is coterminous to the material plane, certain magical areas manifest on Eberron, primarily in the wilderness areas, but also in groves nearer to civilization. Fairy rings, circles of toadstools, and fairy mounds, small bulges in the earth, can be found at such times, often accompanied by mysterious lights. These features are points where the boundary between the planes is thin and passage in either direction can occur easily. Travelers are wise to avoid mysterious lights, for the natives of Thelanis have been known to lure mortals. Hold on a sec.
Mm-hmm. So while he's taking a break, folks, I found where it talks about the moons of Eberron, and apparently it was in a web article that is no longer available. You know, I gotta say, some of the modern conveniences, having the PDF, being able to go through, highlight text, that's all really nice. But then they're gonna put content, in a in a web article and then take the web article down, and then you don't have access to the information anymore.
Oh, dude, it's worse than that because they then released spells and updates and erratas that they only put on their website back then, and all that stuff is now gone.
Not entirely.
Well, yeah, you can Wayback Machine it, but
no, somebody put a they call it the web compendium. They put a web compendium together. It's 1,281 pages in PDF. And it's essentially every single web article from 3.5.
you know, it'd be really good if that's also got the new Eberron specific magic items in it as well.
I don't know because I haven't really dug through it, but I have it.
Yeah.
Now I have to remember where I got it.
I've been using the Wayback Machine. I think I've still got the articles. Yeah. A couple of the ones that I've got is the Clockwork Wonders. They're called Clockwork Wonders. There's the Razordisc Nightmare, the Siren Gliding Boots, the Moving Tower, the Spell Clock, and the Universal Key.
And that's awesome. Unless, but it, like, I don't think this article about the moons is even in this compendium. Because while you were reading that, I was on Keith Baker's website, and he's like, "Oh, the canon information about the moons is right here in this article." And you click the link, and it's Wizards. Like, this doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. I do know that Secrets of Salona does have information about the moons because that's the one that's got the feats relating to the moon phases.
Well, regardless, it's still dumb.
Yes, it is. It's incredibly stupid. Why? They have this is one of the things about why I think that the card game people should never have picked up a role-playing game because every time they say about a new edition, but we'll keep supporting the old one, we'll keep that stuff alive for it. No, as soon as they feel that they don't need it or they don't want it anymore, they immediately dump it.
Right. No, and the funny thing is, I actually don't blame the card game people. I blame Hasbro.
I thoroughly blame the card game people.
No, because also don't forget that, Dungeons and Dragons was going to go out, like TSR was going to go out of business. So it would have gone away anyways. Or somebody else would have picked it up. But
And
they probably still would have done 3rd edition.
Yeah, and they may have done it better.
Maybe. But here we are.
Indeed.
All right, let's finish these up so that we can, because we still have to do equipment.
or
let's try. We at least have to finish Magic. We'll see where we're at the end of Magic.
Okay. Where was I? Often with no hostile.
Huh? Yeah. No, go ahead.
Travelers are wise to avoid the mysterious lights, for the natives of Thelanis have been known to lure mortals to their native realm, often with no hostile intent, but heedless of the effect that spending time in the fairy court can have on the natives of Eberron. Arcane spells are extended if cast within 300 feet of a fairy ring or fairy mound. Fairy creatures are more populous on Eberron during Thelanis' contemporaneous period. Thelanis is coterminous. I said contemporaneous, didn't I?
It's
coterminous. Coterminous for a period of 7 years every 225 years. When its coterminous phase ends, the plane travels in its orbit for 102 years before becoming remote. When Thelanis is remote, fake creatures grow less populous and their power fades. The cast level of any phase innate spell-like and supernatural abilities is reduced by 1. Thelanis is remote for a period of 14 years every 225 years. When its remote phase ends, the plane travels in its orbit of 102 years before becoming coterminous.
All right. Fairies, folks.
Yes, all right. Some of us do like the fairies.
I'm leaving that one alone. All right. Zoriat, the Realm of Madness. Beyond description or comprehension, Zoriat is aptly called the Realm of Madness. Not only do its alien geometry and unspeakable inhabitants seem like the product of a madman's nightmare, but any who visit Zoriat risks finding their minds shattered by the experience. Zoriat has been likened to a stack of translucent parchment, an apparently infinite connection of layers and dimensions. Its inhabitants exist on multiple layers simultaneously. Massive drifting entities, too large to notice visitors to the plane, free-floating rivers of milk-white liquid, rains of blue globes falling from unseen heights, only to burst and release horse-sized ticks when they strike another object. Such are the madness-inducing features of Zoriat. Gelatinous worms wriggle from layer to layer, wending through tentacled vegetation encrusted with orange moss, all suspended above an amoebic sea. Over this mad realm, the Dalekir are absolute masters. Like Dalkor, Zoriat's last time of being coterminous with the material plane was a disastrous period of warfare. Over 9,000 years ago, Zoriat became coterminous, and the Dalekir sent their minions into Khorvaire to conquer it. Before the orc and hobgoblin druids, known as the Gatekeepers, managed to alter Zoriat's orbit, the Mind Flayers and lesser minions of the Dalekir had decimated the hobgoblin empire of Dekkan. The Gatekeepers' magic was less cataclysmic than the Giants' attempt to close the connection to Dalkor, however. Zoriat moved quickly away from its coterminous position, but is sure to return one day. Zoriat has the following traits: no gravity, highly morphic, mildly evil aligned, wild magic, distorted time. Time on the plane of Zoriat flows differently from time on Eberron. 1 minute in the realm of madness is equal to 1 hour on the material plane. So adventurers from Eberron who visit Zoriat for 1 hour return to Eberron to find that 60 hours have passed. Inhabitants: Dalekir, Mind Flayers, pseudo-natural creatures, Rukarazil, Whist, Kautori from the Fiend Folio, Monster Manual 3, Odopi, Shrieking Terror, Void Mind creatures. Coterminous. When Zoriat is coterminous to the material plane, madness literally bursts forth upon the world. For reasons unknown, the Shadow Marches is somehow close to Zoriat, and the natives of the Realm of Madness were able to enter Eberron there during Zoriat's last coterminous phase. Throughout the Shadow Marches, magic went wild. Time flowed strangely, and the Dalekir warped native creatures into monstrous aberrations. The intervention of the gatekeepers during Zoriat's last coterminous phase altered the plane's orbit, and Zoriat had not been coterminous again since then. Dimensional seals keep the plane away, but various forces seek to break their power so Zoriat can draw near again. Remote. Zoriat's remoteness has no known impact upon the material plane.
So that one's a little bit interesting. So basically, the Dakan druids of the gatekeepers basically did what the giants did, but they did it in a way that didn't destroy the moon this time. They moved the moon safely so that it sent Zoriat out of phase, so that it couldn't be connected to Eberron again.
Look, the Dalkor moon is just believed to be destroyed. We don't know.
No, it's still there.
Maybe we need to go spell. No, actually, on Keith Baker's website, it says that Krya, the moon associated with Dalkor, is believed to be destroyed.
Not Dalkir. Dalkor,
no.
the Korai
moon. I know. Larvion is the Zoriat moon.
Yes.
And there's right. That one's fine.
Larvion's still there.
Right.
Yeah.
You're saying they didn't destroy the moon. You're right. But maybe the other moon isn't destroyed either. They just don't know. Sounds like we need to go spell jamming.
Okay, well, you can go negotiate with a mimic colony, and we'll see how that goes.
Fair enough.
I can't believe that was one of Keith Baker's suggestions. The man is mad.
That's fair.
Okay, outsiders in Eberron. As in any D&D campaign, the natives of the various planes can be brought to Eberron by means of spells such as Summon Monster Spells, Planar Ally, and Planar Binding Spells, and Gate. A few monsters described in the Monster Manual are native to the material plane, are actually extraplanar beings in Eberron's cosmology. Mind Flayers are native to Zoriat, and thus can theoretically be brought to Eberron through magic, though Zoriat may well be remote, making it difficult to open a planar channel. Tritons are found on Thalanis, rather than being native outsiders as described in the Monster Manual. Similarly, a number of creatures found as natives on the material plane also live on the outer planes. These include a number of Fae native to Thalanis, dryads, nymphs, satyrs, and sprites, shadows found on Mabar, and normal animals, vermin, and lycanthropes found on Lamania. Calling spells such as Planar Ally and Planar Binding can bring these creatures to the material plane, where they gain the extraplanar subtype. Creatures of these types found naturally on the material plane do not have the extraplanar subtype since they are native to the material plane. By contrast, night hags are outsiders. By contrast, night hags are outsiders native to Eberron and do not have the extraplanar subtype when encountered on the material plane. Want me to do possession?
Give me 1 second. Sorry, was doing edits. No, I'll take it. Possession. Some fiends with at least 4 hit dice and a charisma score of at least 13 have the spell-like ability to shuck their physical forms and take on an ethereal form that allows them to possess another creature or an object. The creature's new form is ethereal and thus immune to even the most potent psychic attacks and most magical attacks by non-lethal non-ethereal creatures. When a fiend possesses a creature or object, even force effects no longer affect the fiend. Only spells such as Dismissal can affect a possessing fiend when cast by non-ethereal creatures. Any other sort of attack, magical or otherwise, directed against the fiend affects the possessed creature or object instead. While a fiend is in ethereal form, its corporeal body lies senseless, as if in a state of suspended animation. The body does not require food or air, but direct damage or exposure to an extreme environment will kill it. A fiend can roam ethereally as long as it wants, but an ethereal fiend dies if its body is destroyed, and it instantly returns to its body if dispel magic or a similar effect is successfully cast on the fiend's body. The caster level for fiend's possession ability is equal to the fiend's hit dice. Fiends with the possession ability have a challenge rating 2 higher than standard fiends of their kind. For example, a succubus with the possession ability is a CR9 creature. Once a fiend is on the ethereal plane, it floats through the world insubstantially, seeking a target to possess. Making a possession attempt is a supernatural ability that a fiend can use at will as a standard action.
Possessed creatures. If a fiend wishes to possess a creature, the fiend's ethereal form must be adjacent to its desired target. A protection from evil spell or similar effect makes a creature immune to possession attempts. An unprotected target of a possession attempt must succeed on a will saving throw, DC 10 plus half fiend's HD plus fiend's charisma modifier, to avoid possession. Evil targets of a possession attempt take a -2 circumstance penalty on this saving throw, and the target of a possession attempt who is in the middle of committing an evil act takes a further -2 circumstance penalty. The DM may roll this saving throw secretly to prevent a player from knowing whether his character has become possessed. Once a creature makes a successful save against possession, that fiend cannot attempt to possess that creature again for 24 hours. On a failed save, the victim is possessed. A fiend in possession of a body becomes a part of the victim, aware of what is going on around the creature that it possesses. It can see and hear as well as the victim can. A possessing fiend can, at any time, speak mentally to the creature that it possesses in a language the creature can understand, although if the victim isn't very intelligent, its understanding may be limited. A creature possessed by a fiend doesn't always know that it is possessed. Furthermore, a fiend can attempt to hide its presence within the possessed creature, allowing it to pass through a magic circle against evil, enter a forbidden, warded church, and escape detection by detect evil. To do so, the fiend must make a special mental hide check. This is a hide check using the fiend's intelligence modifier rather than its dexterity modifier. The DC for the hide check is 10 plus the level of the spell, plus spellcaster's relevant ability modifier, just like the saving throw DC for a spell. The fiend gains a +4 circumstance bonus on its hide check if it is not currently controlling the victim. A fiend can also make this hide check to prevent the possessed creature from taking damage from aligned-based weapons such as Holy Smite. The DC of the hide check is the same as the saving throw DC of the damaging spell. If the fiend's hide check fails, the spell affects the possessed creature as if it had the same alignment as the fiend. Possessing fiends have immediate access to all their victims' current thoughts and the Detect Thoughts spell, except that they automatically read surface thoughts. If desired, a possessing fiend can probe the possessed creature's memories as well, but the victim is allowed a will save, DC 10 plus half the fiend's HD plus fiend's charisma modifier. If the save is successful, the victim keeps the fiend out of his or her thoughts for 24 hours. Whether the save succeeds or fails, probing memories automatically reveals the fiend's presence to the victim. Physical harm to the possessed creature does not harm the fiend. Killing the possessed victim forces the fiend back into the ethereal plane, where it can attempt a new possession. The fiend is unharmed. Not even ethereal creatures can harm a possessing fiend. A fiend possessing a creature can take on can take one of 4 roles with respect to its victim: rider, ally, controller, or enemy. The fiend can switch from one role to another as a free action. Rider. Much of the time, a fiend that possesses a creature simply rides along with the victim, who is typically unaware of the fiend's presence. The fiend might combine riding with hiding to get into an area protected by forbidden, or slip past a magic circle against evil, near a target that it could not otherwise approach. A fiend in the role of rider may decide to take the role of ally or controller of the possessed creature instead. Both of these actions, however, make the fiend's presence known to the victim, although victims with low intelligence scores may not understand what is happening to them. I'm sorry. Every time I see that part, it just
All right, here I'll take. We'll bounce back and forth between ally and the other two.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it is kind of funny. It's like, yes, it can do this. I don't know why they would, but they can do it. I mean, I guess they could possess like a dog to, sneak in.
Well, no, just like, what about like, the town drunk or something,
That's, you know what? I didn't think of altered intelligence.
Yeah, like, there's someone talking to me in my head. It's like,
yeah.
You're drunk again. Great.
There goes Crazy Joe again. Somebody get him back home.
He keeps telling me to go to the north.
Right? All right. Ally. If the possessed creature is aware of the possessing fiend and willing to be its host, the fiend can grant the possessed creature a +4 profane bonus to any single ability score. This bonus is granted at the conclusion of some bargaining between the fiend and the possessed creature, which can communicate telepathically with each other. The fiend is in control of this bonus and can take it away at any time, or as a free action if the possessed creature acts contrary to the fiend's wishes. If the possessed creature doesn't do what the fiend wants, the fiend can go from ally to controller or from ally to enemy as a free action.
Okay. Controller. In the most feared form of possession, a fiend can take a standard action to attempt direct control over the actions of its victims who struggles to maintain control over his or her own body, otherwise known as assuming direct control. There's a Mass Effect reference for you. Oh, yeah, and you're doing Rex as well. Yeah. The victim must succeed on a will saving throw every round, DC 10 plus half the Fiend's HD plus Fiend's Charisma modifier, plus 1 for each previous failed save against control that day, to avoid losing control. If the victim's save succeeds, the victim has resisted the Fiend, but the Fiend can make another control attempt in the next round. Victims struggling against control are considered staggered and can take only a single action in a round, either a move action or a standard action. If the possessed creature makes 3 consecutive successful saving throws, then the possessing fiend cannot make further attempts to control the victim for 24 hours. The success or failure of the victim's saving throws against control does not affect the overall possession, however, and the fiend still possesses the creature. If the possessed creature fails the will save against control, the fiend has access to all the creature's senses, abilities, skills, feats, and spell knowledge. The fiend now acts as though it is the creature in all respects, until control is lost or it relinquishes control. During this time, the possessed creature can still speak mentally to the fiend and is still privy to all sensory input, unless the possessor takes a standard action each round to block the possessed creature's access to its senses. If the fiend wishes, the victim blacks out while the fiend is in charge. The fiend uses its own intelligence, wisdom, and charisma scores, but it adopts all the possessed creature's physical ability scores. Fiends with at least 9 HD and an intelligence score of 15 that maintain control of a victim for at least 10 rounds a day for 7 consecutive days can also draw upon the possessed creature's spell-like abilities at the same caster level as the possessed creature. The fiend retains the victim's type and is affected by spells. And is affected by spells and effects as if the fiend were the possessed creature. Thus, a Cornugan possessed wolf is subject to spells affecting animals, even though it is far more intelligent than a normal wolf. The fiend automatically maintains control for a number of rounds equal to half the fiend's HD plus fiend's charisma modifier plus 1 for each time the fiend has controlled this specific victim. When the fiend's control lapses, the fiend can attempt to assert control again if it chooses. Fiends often choose weak-willed creatures to possess, such as golems and other constructs. A warforged doesn't fall into this category. The construct can make a will save just as any other creature to avoid the possession, but it is likely that the possessing fiend can take and retain control, because most constructs have poor will saves. A fiend possessing a construct can also aid. A fiend possessing a construct can also aid it as described under the ally role, but it must relinquish direct control to do so, after which the construct reverts to its prior programming.
Okay. Oh. All right. Enemy, the opposite of an ally. This sort of possessing fiend is a hindrance to a creature it possesses. The possessing fiend usually takes this role when it has failed to control its victim, or when it's angry at a possessed creature that the fiend was acting as an ally toward. The possessing fiend can grant the victim a -4 profane penalty to any single ability score. The fiend is in control of this penalty and can take it away as a free action, sometimes by working out an agreement with the possessed creature after telepathic negotiations. All right. I'll keep going because you had a nice long chunk. All right. Possessed objects. A fiend can possess an object of at least tiny size and no larger than huge. An item held, worn, or carried by a character, including magic items, uses its owner's will saving throw modifier to resist possession. Unattended magic items gain a saving throw as if a spell was being cast upon the item. In each case, the will save DC is 10 plus half the fiend's hit dice plus fiend's charisma modifier. A possession attempt automatically succeeds against an unattended non-magical item. Here, I'm going to possess this burrito. A fiend possessing an object becomes part of the object. A possessing fiend can see and hear out to 60 feet away from the object, but it can't use dark vision or blind sight while possessing an object, even if it ordinarily has these abilities. The possessing fiend remains vulnerable to spells that affect outsiders, extraplanar creatures, or evil creatures such as Holy Word, and Holy Smite, as well as mind-affecting spells and effects. Physical attacks and most spells, such as Fireball, don't affect the fiend, but they might affect the object. Harming the object does not harm the possessing fiend. If the object is destroyed, the fiend takes ethereal form and can choose a new host object or creature. A fiend can attempt to hide its presence within a possessed object, allowing it to pass through a magic circle, enter a warded church, and escape detection by means of spells such as Detect Evil. Use the same rules as when a fiend hides in a creature. If the spell ordinarily detects or targets only creatures, the fiend gains a +8 circumstance bonus on its hide check because it is within an object. The fiend can also attempt this hide check to avoid the effects of alignment-based damaging spells such as Holy Smite. If the fiend fails its hide check, the possessed object takes damage as if it were the fiend. A fiend can possess a substance that has no fixed shape, such as a pool of water or a dust cloud, or as part of a larger object, such as a section of wall. When it does so, a fiend cannot possess an area or volume larger than 10 feet on a side. A fiend might possess an item, such as using a stepping stone for possessing a character. A fiend might possess an item to use as a stepping stone for possessing a character. The possessing fiend gets a bonus on attempts to possess a creature that carries, holds, or wears the item. For each consecutive day the possessed item was worn, held, or carried by the target before the possession attempt, the DC of the target's will save increases by 1, up to a maximum increase of plus 10. A fiend possessing an object can take one of 4 rolls with respect to its victim, watcher, controller, corruptor, or enhancer. The fiend can switch from one roll to another as a standard action. Watcher. A fiend in the role of Watcher can see and hear out to twice the normal distance as long as the possessed object remains stationary. Controller. If a possessed object is one that has moving parts such as a wagon, clock, or crossbow, a possessing fiend can control the object's movement. A wagon can be made to steer toward a pedestrian on a street or roll out of a stable with no horse pulling it. A clock can slow or run backward. A crossbow can cock and fire, but not aim or load itself. Possessed objects with wheels or legs cannot move faster than the fiend could move in its corporeal form. Fiends with at least 10 hit dice and a charisma score of 17 can force an object to animate even if the object doesn't have any moving parts, such as a table or a statue. The possessed object functions as an animated object. However, no fiend can control an animated object that has a challenge rating higher than the fiend's. All right.
Can we cover Corruptor?
Yeah, you do the last two, because then I think I can do the next section, and then you can do magic-y stuff.
Spells.
Yes.
Corruptor. A fiend in the role of Corruptor causes the possessed object to radiate a cursed, befouling presence. Anyone touching the possessed object must succeed on a will save DC 10 plus half the fiend's HD plus fiend's charisma modifier, or fall under the effect of a bestow curse spell with a caster level equal to the fiend's hit dice. Unlike with the bestow curse spell, the subject does not necessarily know what the curse is in effect or that it came from the item. Nothing about the object's appearance suggests that it is possessed, although there might be residual evil effects. The curse lasts until removed with a break enchantment, limited wish, miracle, remove curse, or wish, even if the fiend vacates the possessed object. A particularly crafty fiend might possess a small fountain as a corruptor, affecting anyone who touches or drinks the water. Similarly, a fiend could corrupt a patch of ground, affecting anyone who walks over it. Enhancer. In the role of Enhancer, a fiend can possess a tiny or larger weapon or suit of armor and enhance it as if it were a magic weapon or magic armor. The fiend can duplicate magic item powers worth 2,000 gold pieces per hit die. For example, a Hezro 9 HD that enhances a longsword could bestow up to 18,000 gold piece worth of powers on it. It could duplicate the effects of a +3 longsword, a +1 unholy longsword, or any combination of properties with a value of up to 18,000 gold pieces. A fiend that is possessing a suit of magic armor or a magic weapon can increase its powers by the same gold piece value. The Dungeon Master's Guide gives prices for various enhancements. The fiend is in control of the powers it bestows upon the item. It can take them away as a free action if the creature using them does not act in a manner that the fiend favors. If the fiend leaves the item, it loses all powers bestowed by the possession. Despite the fiend's ability to duplicate magic item abilities, a non-magical possessed item doesn't actually become magical. Detect magic does not sense an aura. Detect evil does, however. Smart characters might notice that the possessed item behaves strangely or has an unusual appearance. A magic weapon that isn't of masterwork quality, for example, is a tip-off that something is awry. A character who succeeds on a DC 25 search check notes something strange about the item. This very much reminds me of Stormbringer.
I've never looked at Stormbringer. I think that's a book, right?
Michael Moorcock? Eric?
Nope.
Black Blade? by
Trust me, there are so many layers to my levels of disappointment for people. Trust me. If you can be disappointed in me, I probably did it.
You proved that by having knowledge about Harry Potter before, but not about Eric.
Remember, I'm a much bigger fan of science fiction than fantasy. So, anyways.
He's 40 billion years in the future. Or the past.
Which might as well be fantasy. All right. Yeah, no, so it is kind of interesting though, going back to like our previous episode where you were mentioning just like all of the references to like possession and that kind of stuff. Like it really is like extensive in this. Like think about it. We've had like 4 pages literally just talking about, possessing animals, possessing objects, etc. So it is kind of interesting how big of an impact it is on the setting.
Yeah, I feel like if my DM ever sees this, that he should take away the reason why my artificer constantly wears his artificer monocle with the detect magic constantly going is because he's trying to make sure nothing that he comes into contact with is actually going to accidentally possess him or affect him with a curse or something.
Right? It's just his nature. That's how we do things back home.
Exactly.
All right.
Trust nothing.
Channeling, where fiends are known for their ability to seize control of a creature or object. Respect for the life and dignity of sentient creatures bars good creatures from usurping control of another in this manner. However, some celestials are happy to exercise their power through a mortal form, if the mortal host invites them to do so. Similar in many ways to fiendish possession, this celestial channeling is an important means by which the forces of good work in the world. Celestial channeling works in a manner very similar to the salient divine ability possessed mortal that some deities have. In Eberron, some celestials have the spell-like ability to invest mortals with their power in this fashion. And certain spells allow a mortal to invite any celestial into his or her body in this way. Unlike fiendish possession, channeling works only if the mortal is willing. The celestial does not assume an ethereal form in preparation for possessing the mortal. It simply merges its own form with the mortal's as part of its spell-like ability. As with possession, spells such as protection from good block celestial channeling, even if the spell's target is willing to channel the celestial. Similarly, spells such as dismissal or dispel good, as well as special abilities that drive possessing spirits out of their victims, can work on a channeled celestial, even if the mortal wants the celestial to remain. A mortal who channels a celestial becomes a mortal manifestation of the celestial's power. The celestial can draw on all the mortal's memories, and the celestial senses what the mortal senses. The mortal and the celestial can communicate telepathically, but neither has complete access to the current thoughts of the other. While a mortal is channeling a celestial, the mortal's intelligence, wisdom, and charisma scores become 5 points lower than the celestial's, or remain the same if they are equal to or higher than that value already. An increase in wisdom affects the mortal's will saves, and all 3 increases might affect bonus spells and saving throw DCs for spells and special abilities. The mortal can use his or her own skills as well as the celestial skills. If the mortal and the celestial have the same modifier in a given skill, use the modifier that includes more ranks. Use the mortal's effective ability scores to determine his or her skill modifiers. A channeling mortal can use all the celestial, supernatural, and spell-like abilities, and can cast spells known to the celestial if his or her requisite ability scores are high enough. A mortal remains in complete control of his or her own body while channeling a celestial, so celestials never allow non-good mortals to channel them. The mortal or the celestial can end the channeling at any time as a free action. When this occurs, the celestial appears in an unoccupied space adjacent to the mortal.
You missed a bit.
Wrong direction. Oh, nope, that was
Yep.
That was the end of channeling. So yes, you can chant. You can get possessed by good creatures too.
And they want to help you. Oh, also, Eberron did it first. Suck at supernatural weaves.
I doubt Eberron did it first.
Well, no, but like, around that time period, this came out, and then Supernatural would come out with, their whole angels possessing people too sometimes, like Castiel, and it's like everyone did it first. Yeah.
All right, let us finish up with spells.
Okay, spells. In Eberron, magic serves many relatively mundane functions. In addition to the spectacular and often combat-orientated uses traditionally associated with spellcasters. The spellcasters and artificers of Eberron have access to a number of new spells and infusions, as detailed below. Spells new to this book and described herein are marked with an asterisk. All other spells can be found in the player's handbook. Now, we wanted to just mention a few just to get an idea of what can actually be expected from the artificer, because in 5th edition, artificers just have a spell list, and that's stupid because they're not actually casters. Infusions in 3.5, they're a little bit different. They work like spells in terms of the base design of their mechanics, but in how you use them is completely different. We've kind of already touched on this when we talked about the artificer class, but like in that, it said you can't cast what was it, Bear's strength, Bear's endurance on a person. You've got to cast it on something they're wearing, like say a belt, and then that belt basically becomes a temporary belt of strength.
Makes sense.
Yep. So just to give a idea of what that kind of looks like more so for artificers infusions, armor enhancement, as we can see here. Armor or shield gains special ability with a +1 bonus market price modifier. So in the DMG, you've got basically tables in the magic item section about like what a +1 bonus market price is. The magic item compendium also has the same thing, and basically with this you can slap on, like, for example, the +1 enhancement here, you would be able to slap on everything from a +1 armor enhancement, so that your armor has +1 more enhancement to it, or you could give it something like fire shield, I think it is. Can't remember. The basically these things that are specifically my brain is going from multiple hours ago when we were talking about this.
Well, so like we were talking earlier, so like armor enhancement,
Yeah.
basically the infusion lets you put some kind of an enhancement on the armor. So as a player, you're going to have to do a lot of research for what kind of an enhancement do you want to use.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like in that regard, there's a spell called Death Ward that protects you from like death magic and negative energy drain and things like that. You can't put Death Ward on someone or on someone's armor. However, there is a enchantment in the Book of Exalted Deeds called Soulfire. That is Death Ward in all full respects, but specifically for an armor that you could put on the armor.
Okay.
It's still Death Ward, but that's how you can put Death Ward on someone's armor.
Right. So essentially, all of these infusions, remember, like it's not so much a spell as like I'm going to call it a magical creation process. It's like
Temporary magic creation process.
Yeah, like you're putting an oil on an armor, or you're scribing a rune or something along those lines, where the process of doing that, which actually, now that I just use those kinds of examples, I think that could actually make for some fun role play things. You come up, like when we were doing the Star Trek game, I didn't want to just throw out technobabble. I wanted to come up with something that seemed like it was useful. So this is actually something I think an artificer, okay, so my infusions are similar to lack of a better way to put it, to potions. So it's an ointment or something that I have to spread upon the armor, and then it gains that bonus. So, and it could be an armor, it could be so like here's like magic stone, 3 stones gain +1 on attack rolls. Magic vestment, it's a hat, or something else, and so I apply this oil, this ointment kind of thing, and that's how my infusions work.
With my artificer, I utilize a combination of what do you call them? I know there's a name, but the gold, silver, bronze, copper, dust filaments, and then he uses his crafting tool to basically trace over what looks like magical circuit boards, and that's what takes the 1 minute infusion time, where he's basically crafting this kind of magical circuit board that then imbues into the armor, and that's where the enchantment.
And I like that even more than what I just said. But again, I think that goes, like I said, to the role play ability. How do you want to do it? Do you want to do circuit boards? Do you want to do oils? Do you want to do, runes? Something like, what is it that you want to do to make your artificer magic work? Which, again, it's going to take research, because you still have to dig up what are the spells, what are the enchantments, which one do I use with the particular infusion, things like that. So, folks, I don't have a good answer for you, and we're not going to read through all of these. But if you want to play an artificer, prepare to do some research.
Oh, yeah. Although, I will say, that one right there, spell storing item, that is like your second biggest best friend. Basically, it allows you to store in an item a 4th level spell or lower that I think does up to like 2 hours or something like that. I can't remember exactly what the time amount is, but like 4th level, that means like you could hide a fireball in something. That means you could hire a cure critical wounds in something. Like there is so many useful things in just the first 4 levels that you could just hide in really any kind of item. Like, say, your pocket of gold pieces. Someone tries to take your money. Or maybe you want to be like, oh no, I'm being robbed. Here, take my only gold coin, flip it over to them, and when they grab it, it explodes as a fireball.
Seraphis is a devious little man.
I would never do such a thing. And I wish to say that any allegations that I have currently 5 coins on my character that are caster level 10 fireballs is outrageous allegations.
Outrageous because he managed to do it. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's definitely a system that makes you have to think a little bit more about how you want to use your magic. It's not a wizard, it's not a sorcerer where you just have a list of, slinging fireballs, cool. You definitely have to prepare.
Yes. If you're going to play an artificer, prepare to get, unfortunately, very intimately knowledged with the Dungeon Master's Guide, the Magic Item Compendium, and every complete book in the game. Oh, also, and this is completely unrelated, but I just want to bring it up anyway. If you want to play an artificer, as soon as you can, get the magic item called the Rod of Ropes.
Okay. Is that because then you don't have to carry a rope around?
No. It can be used as a grappling hook.
Fair enough. So,
also, it's anything. An item.
I mean,
so it counts as a spell storing item. Also, because technically it can be a grappling hook and it shoots out a grappling hook, technically you can make contact with the target, which means you can apply as touch any of your touch infusions.
Okay.
It's ridiculously evil. I love it so much.
All right. So anything else that we want to say about magic or spells? New cleric spell. Feast of Champions. Not just Heroes Feast.
Yeah, so it's like the big brother of Heroes Feast.
Right.
Yeah.
Does it have tacos?
If you want, no, sorry. Let me get into that one. Only if it's halflings.
Only if it's halfling. No, orcs.
No. In Eberron, it's halflings. Talenta Plains.
Yeah, but in new 5e, orcs are Mexicans.
Hey, we're covering 3.5 Eberron, not crappy 5.5.
There we go. So
if I can't have my fun, you can't have your fun.
That's fair. Anyways, folks, we're not going to go through all of this. There's it's cleric domains. There are new spells. If you want to see what they added, grab the grab the Eberron campaign setting and you'll be able to see it. Cause there's a lot as you can tell.
True creation is your friend.
True creation?
Mm-hmm.
Is that another artificer infusion?
No.
Or is
infusions only got up to 6th level. This is like an 8th level spell.
I don't think that's an Eberron spell. It only goes up to 8th. Anyways, folks, there's a lot of magic. And it's Eberron. Eberron's supposed to be, a little extra magical. So have fun with it. Part of the reason we're not going over all the spells, it's spells. They do things. Some are good. Some are mediocre.
Oh, actually, quickly, while you got that right there, go back down. Power Surge.
Oh, Power
Once
Surge.
you get to Artificer level 3, By touching a wand or staff that has at least one charge, you imbue it with one temporary charge per 5 caster levels. These charges work like temporary hit points. When a character uses the item, reduct the charges spent from the temporary charges first. Basically, you can temporarily recharge an item that's got missing charges.
My wand is almost out. Boop.
Now it's not.
Yeah. That's not bad.
It does cost XP, but you're an artificer and you have a crafting reserve.
And it's not that bad. 5 XP times the level of the highest spell level stored.
Yeah.
So, say for a 6 level spell, it's 30 XP. I mean, you're not going broke on XP using that. So,
well, even that, like on a wand, the highest spell you can have is a 4th level spell. So that's 20 XP.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then like you said, your crafting reserve. So, I will point these out. Repair light, moderate, and serious damage. Again, Eberron, constructs everywhere. So, having a repair spell, similar to a cure spell is just kind of a no-brainer. Here's your spell storing item transmutation or infusion.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyways, anything else that we should point out?
Oh, you just went past true creation. There it is.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Oh, it's probably a cleric spell. I was in the wizard and sorcerer spells when I'm like, it's not here.
Yeah, but you a wizard or sorcerer can technically learn it. So,
as major creation, except items are permanent and cannot be negated by dispelling magic or negating powers. For all intents and purposes, these items are completely real.
Yep.
XP cost. The item's gold piece value or a minimum of 1 XP. Okay, that's kind of brutal. Especially if you're like a high-level artificer. And you've like been deconstructing items or you still got stuff in your craft reserve.
or you're on another plane that isn't Eberron and you need dragon shards and you unfortunately need to somehow make more dragon shards because you desperately need them. So you've got to create a summoning circle of true creation to materialize dragon shards for your work, which means the maximum cost you need to keep putting in there is like 5,000 XP because that's a 5,000 gold piece dragon shard.
Folks, Seraphis has thought about this.
Seraphis' tablet has multiple notes on all this shit.
Awesome. All right. Well, that is going to be the end of magic. We are not going to be able to get to it's equipment next. No, yes, adventuring equipment next. So I had an idea, and so I'm literally proposing it to Seraphis right now. On Keith Baker's website, there is an article about going to space. So what we're going to do next time, because adventuring equipment is really short, folks. So what we're going to do next time is we're going to do adventuring equipment and going to space in Eberron. Because I know we talked about it like 8 different times during the stream.
Well, I mean, you got to. Let's be fair.
No, right. No, but so that's what I'm saying. So next time we'll do equipment because it's super short, and then we'll do the article talking about space and Keith Baker's opinion on what space for Eberron would be like. So we'll do that to fill out some time. So, folks, unfortunately, because this is not a live stream, I won't be giving out a miniature today. But I also won't be
Dr.
doing
Death,
it.
you won.
What?
But Dr. Death won.
Sure. No, Dr. Death, you didn't win if you're watching this later. But I also won't be doing one next week because next week we're also going to have another premiere style video. So do make sure you come back for that. We will return live on the third. I think it's the 13th. Yes, on the 13th, or no, the 20th. We will return live on the 20th. And then we will start digging into the world of Eberron itself. But otherwise,
which is either going to be several episodes or a very long episode.
It is not going to be a very long episode.
I'll have to temporarily leave to go pick up the kids and then come back for that one if we were going to do it all in one shot.
We are not doing it all in one shot either. So we are going to be looking at it over the next couple of weeks, folks. So we may edit it and reduce actually some of the content that we go over. But again, that's a couple weeks down the road. So we will address that when we actually get there. But Seraphis, any last thoughts? Oh, by the way, folks, Seraphis does have his own channel. It is linked in the description. Please go subscribe to him. You know, he's still small, but he's growing. He'll get there.
I mean, I'm 5'11". I'm not that small.
Okay, his channel is small. So, anyways, any last thoughts before we go?
I mean, don't do anything to a dragon that you won't want it to do to you.
That's a pretty solid piece of advice. So, all right. Well, folks, thank you so much for being here. We absolutely appreciate it. On your way out, hit the like button. If you're new here, do hit the subscribe button. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and we will talk to you next time. Goodbye, everybody.